My ex-wife stood in my doorway at 7:30 on a Wednesday night, holding court papers with my name already typed on them, and the first words out of her mouth were, "Sign here. Be my husband again." I stared at Margaret, the woman I divorced 18 years ago, the woman I hadn't seen in 8 years, the woman who'd married someone else and built a whole new life without me. And I thought, is this a joke? But her hands were shaking, but her eyes looked terrified, not amused. But she was wearing the wedding ring I'd given her 41 years ago, the one she should have thrown away or sold or buried in a drawer somewhere. She wasn't laughing. She wasn't smiling. She looked like a woman who'd run out of options, and I was the last one left. "If I'm not married by Friday," she said, her voice cracking, "I lose everything. The house, the inheritance, my entire future, and you're the only person who can help me." I looked down at the court papers in her hands, official, legal, already filled. Out, and then back at this woman who'd once been my whole world, the ex-wife who broke my heart, the ex-wife who I never stopped loving, the ex-wife who was now asking me to sign here and become her husband again in 5 days. Why me? Why now, after all these years of silence? What happened that made her desperate enough to knock on the door of the man she left behind? And the biggest question of all, was she asking me to save her, or was this about something else she wasn't telling me? My name is Walter Cunningham. I'm 67 years old, retired dentist, living alone in the same Charlotte ranch house where we raised our daughter Caroline. The same house I refused to sell after the divorce because letting it go meant admitting she was really gone. I eat reheated meatloaf on Wednesdays. I watch the news alone. My life is quiet, predictable, safe. Exactly how I built it after she left. No surprises, no chaos, no one to hurt me again. And then she showed up asking me to marry her, and every wall I'd built came crashing down. I should have said no. I should have closed the door, but I stepped aside and let her in. She walked past me, and I caught lavender, her perfume from when we were young. Her eyes scanned the room. Same couch, same photos, pictures of Caroline's wedding, our grandchildren I'd never met, no pictures of me with anyone else. "You kept everything," she said quietly. I didn't answer. She sat on the couch edge, the folder trembling in her lap. "Can I get you something? Coffee?" She looked up, surprised. "You remember how I take it?" I remembered everything. "2 sugars, splash of cream," I said. Her face softened. "Yeah, that'd be nice." I made the coffee, hands shaking. This wasn't the Margaret I remembered. That woman was strong, fierce, full of life. This one looked like she'd been carrying something too heavy for too long. I brought her the mug. She held it but didn't drink. "Walt," she said, and hearing my name from her lips felt like a punch to the chest. "I need you to listen to all of it before you say anything." I sat across from her, miles between us. "You know Richard died," she said. Richard, her second husband, the wealthy developer who'd given her everything I couldn't. I'd sent a card, wanted to call but didn't know if I had the right anymore. 14 months ago, I said. She nodded. His will had a clause. His children from his first marriage convinced him to add it. They never liked me. Never thought I deserved his money. She took a shaky breath. "I can only keep the house and inherit if I remarry within 18 months of his death. I have 5 days, Walter. 5 days or I lose everything." The words hung between us. "That's insane," I said. "Why would he agree to that?" "He thought it was romantic. Didn't realize his kids were setting a trap." She set down the coffee, hands shaking. "I need to get married by Friday. And you're the only person I can ask," my heart pounded. "Why me?" "Because, legally, remarrying an ex-spouse raises fewer questions than marrying a stranger. Richard's son Bradley is a lawyer. He's watching me. Has investigators. If this looks fake, he'll contest it, and I lose anyway." She met my eyes. "I need someone I trust who won't make this complicated. You're the only person who fits." Trust. The word cut deep. She'd trusted me once, and I'd let her down, pushed her away, chose grief over love, destroyed us because I didn't know how to ask for help. "What happens after?" I asked. "After you get the inheritance, what happens to us?" She hesitated. "We figure it out. Together, or we don't. I don't know, Walt. I just know I can't do this alone. She pulled out papers, marriage license application, both names filled in. I know I have no right to ask you this. I know this is crazy. I know I walked away 18 years ago, and I have no business showing up now, but I have nowhere else to go. And I'm scared. I saw her completely stripped bare, no defenses, no walls, just raw fear and desperation. And underneath, something that looked like hope, like maybe she wasn't just here because she was desperate, maybe some part of her still believed in us. I stood up, walked to my desk, pulled out a pen. 18 years ago, I'd signed divorce papers without a fight because I thought she deserved better. Now she was asking me to make her my wife again, and every instinct screamed this was dangerous, that letting her back in would destroy me when she left. But I'd spent 18 years protecting myself from getting hurt, and I'd been miserable every single day. If we do this, I said, we do it right, no half measures. Her eyes widened. What does that mean? You move in here, we act like a married couple, make it believable. If investigators are watching, we can't give them any reason to question this. Walt, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm telling you. I signed my name and slid the papers to her. We go to the courthouse tomorrow morning. We make this legal. We make this real. And we make damn sure Bradley doesn't take a single thing from you. Margaret stared at my signature. Tears slid down her cheeks. Why are you doing this? She whispered. I could have said a lot of things, but I looked at her and told the truth. Because 18 years ago, I let you walk away without fighting, and I've regretted it every single day since. Her breath caught. And because I never stopped caring what happened to you. She covered her mouth, tears streaming now. Thank you, she managed. And just like that, everything changed. My quiet, safe life ended, and the most terrifying, exhilarating chapter began. The next morning, we stood in the Mecklenburg County Courthouse at 9:15 a.m. Margaret wore a simple navy dress. I wore the only suit I owned that still fit. We filled out forms, paid the fee, and stood before a county clerk who looked like she'd performed this ceremony 1,000 times and couldn't care less about number 1001. Do you, Walter James Cunningham, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? I looked at Margaret. Her hand trembled in mine. I do, I said. Do you, Margaret Ann Cunningham, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? I do, she whispered. By the power vested in me by the state of North Carolina, I now pronounce you husband and wife. No kiss, no celebration, just two people in a government building pretending this was normal. We walked out into the October sunshine, legally married. Again. That was fast, Margaret said. Surreal, I said. We stood on the courthouse steps. Other couples arrived, excited, holding flowers. We looked like two people who'd just signed a business contract. We should get your things, I said. Move you in today. The sooner we establish you're living with me, the better. She nodded. Everything's at Richard's house. I'll need to pack. I'll come with you, I said. We're married now. That's what married people do. The drive took 20 minutes. Her house was in Myers Park, one of Charlotte's wealthy neighborhoods. Big colonial, circular driveway, landscaping that cost more than my car. He did well for himself, I said. He was a good man, Margaret said quietly. Different from you, but good. I didn't know what to say to that. Inside, the house was beautiful. High ceilings, expensive furniture, art on the walls. It looked like a magazine spread. It didn't look like a home. I've been living here alone since he died, she said, walking through like a ghost. 14 months, his kids cleaned out his things within a week. They were just waiting for me to be gone too. We packed her clothes, her photos, her books. I carried boxes while she wrapped picture frames of Caroline, of our grandchildren Emma and Jack. I noticed she didn't pack any photos of Richard. In the bedroom, I found a small jewelry box on her dresser. Maggie, I called. She came in, saw what I was holding. I opened it. Inside was her original wedding ring, the one I'd given her 41 years ago. Simple gold band, tiny diamond we'd saved months to afford. You kept it, I said. She took the box from me and slipped the ring on her finger. It still fit. We didn't talk about it, just kept packing. By evening, Margaret's things were scattered throughout the house. Our house. I didn't know what to call it anymore. She stood in the bedroom doorway looking at the bed. "I'll take the guest room," she said. "You sure? This bed's bigger, more comfortable." She smiled sadly. "I think we should keep some boundaries, Walt. At least at first." I nodded. Made sense. This was business after all. That night I made dinner. Grilled chicken, green beans, rice. The same thing I made every Thursday. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table where we'd eaten thousands of meals decades ago. "This table," she said, running her hand over a small scratch. "Caroline did this when she was 7. Dropped a fork during a tantrum about broccoli." "I remember," I said. "You wanted to sand it out. I said we should keep it. Said it was a memory, part of our story." We ate in silence. Then she said, "Walt, I need to know. Why did you really say yes? You want the truth?" "I always want the truth. That was our problem, remember? You stopped telling me the truth." The words hit hard. "When Dad died, I didn't know how to handle it. I shut down, turned inward. I pushed you away. I know I destroyed us." "I tried to reach you for 2 years," she said, voice tight. "I know. And then you said you wanted space. You said you needed to figure things out alone." "I remember." She looked at me. "Do you remember what I said?" I'd replayed that conversation 10,000 times. "You said you couldn't compete with my grief. And you said, 'I'm not asking you to.' You said, 'Then what are you asking?' And I said, 'Nothing. That's the problem.'" We sat in silence. "I filed the papers 2 weeks later," she said. "You signed them without a fight. Because I thought you deserved better than what I'd become." "That wasn't your choice to make, Walt. It was ours." "I know that now," I said. "Took me 18 years to figure it out." She wiped her eyes. "Why are we doing this, really?" I looked at her across the table. Same woman I'd married 41 years ago. Same eyes. Same way she tucked hair behind her ear when nervous. "Because maybe we deserve a chance to do it right this time." She reached across and squeezed my hand. Over the next 3 days, we fell into a rhythm. I'd wake at 6, make coffee, find she was already up. We'd sit reading the newspaper like we used to. She'd comment on articles. I'd make bad jokes. She'd laugh, that real laugh I hadn't heard in 18 years. My friend Frank came by on day 2, took one look at us on the porch and said, "Well, I'll be damned." After Margaret went inside, Frank turned to me. "You married her again?" "It's complicated." "You still love her, don't you?" I didn't answer. "Walt, don't do this unless you're prepared for how it ends. This woman broke your heart once. You might not survive it twice." On day 3, something shifted. We'd gone to the courthouse to file residency paperwork. When we got home, I heard a crash from the bedroom. I ran in. Margaret was on the floor, surrounded by her purse contents, breathing too fast, eyes wide. Panic attack. I sat beside her on the floor. "Breathe with me, Maggie, in through your nose, out through your mouth. You're okay. You're safe. I'm right here." Her breathing evened out. Then tears came. "I'm sorry for dragging you into this. I'm sorry for asking you to save me. I'm sorry I wasn't enough to pull you out of that darkness all those years ago." I pulled her into my arms. "Stop. You have nothing to apologize for. You fought plenty. I was the one who gave up. I chose grief over you. And Maggie, you were always enough. Always. I was the one who wasn't." She looked at me with red, swollen eyes. "I've spent 18 years thinking I failed you. You didn't fail me. I failed us." We sat on the bedroom floor holding each other. "Walt," she said against my shoulder, "what happens when this is over? When we don't have to pretend anymore?" "Is that what we're doing?" I asked. "Pretending?" She pulled back. "I don't know. Are we?" I tucked her hair behind her ear. "I haven't been pretending since you walked through that door." Her breath caught. "I know this wasn't supposed to be real. I know you came because you were desperate. But Maggie, having you here has reminded me of everything I threw away, and I need you to know that before this ends." She was crying again, different this time. "I took back your name 6 months ago. I told myself it was practical. But that wasn't why." "Why did you?" "Because I never stopped being Walter Cunningham's wife. Not really. Richard was good to me. He gave me security, but he wasn't you. Nobody was ever you." I kissed her then, soft, careful. She kissed me back, and everything changed. If this story is hitting you in a way you didn't expect, Do me a favor right now. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. Because what started as a desperate arrangement was about to become something neither of us saw coming. On day 4, we were in the kitchen making lunch when the doorbell rang. I opened it to find a man in an expensive suit, early 50s, holding a briefcase. Walter Cunningham? That's me. Bradley Thornton, Richard Thornton's son. I believe you're married to my late father's widow. Margaret appeared behind me. Her face went pale. Bradley, what are you doing here? Due diligence, he said with a cold smile. May I come in? No, I said. His smile faded. Excuse me? You heard me. You're not welcome in our home. Our home? He laughed. You mean the home you've lived in for 6 months after 18 years of divorce? And now suddenly you're married again, right before the deadline? You'll forgive me if that seems convenient. My relationship with my wife is none of your business, I said evenly. It is when it involves my father's estate. I have investigators, Mr. Cunningham. I know you two haven't spoken in years. I know this is a sham marriage designed to steal what's rightfully ours. Margaret stepped forward. Your father wanted me taken care of. That clause was his idea, not mine. His idea before you manipulated him. Watch yourself, I said, my voice dropping. Bradley looked at me with contempt. You think you can intimidate me? I'm a lawyer, and I will prove this. Marriage is fraudulent. You'll both be lucky if you don't face criminal charges. He turned and walked away. I closed the door. Margaret was shaking. He's going to fight this. He's going to take everything. No, he's not. Walt, you don't understand. He has resources, money, investigators. Let him investigate, I said. He won't find anything. Because there's nothing to find. This is a sham marriage. We got married 5 days ago out of desperation. Is it? I asked. Is it really? She stopped. We've been married before, Maggie. For 23 years. We have a daughter, grandchildren, a history. We're not strangers playing pretend. We're two people who loved each other once and are finding out if we can love each other again. In 5 days? In 18 years, I corrected. I've spent 18 years thinking about you, missing you, regretting what I did. And you took back my name 6 months ago. You came to me when you needed help. You're wearing your original wedding ring right now. She looked down at her hand. This isn't fraud, I said firmly. This is two people who never stopped being connected, finally admitting it. Day 5. The final deadline. We dressed carefully, my best suit, her charcoal dress and pearls. At the lawyer's office, we sat across from Susan, Margaret's attorney. Everything's in order, Susan said. The marriage certificate is filed. Residency is established. We submit this today and the inheritance is secured. And Bradley? Margaret asked. He can contest, but he'd need proof of fraud. The door burst open. Bradley strode in with his lawyer carrying a thick folder. We're contesting, Bradley announced. On what grounds? Susan asked. Marriage fraud. We have bank records showing no joint finances, separate addresses until 4 days ago, no communication for years. The timeline alone is suspicious. Married 5 days before the deadline? That's not coincidence. My clients aren't required to prove validity. Beyond the legal certificate, Susan countered. Perhaps not legally, Bradley said, but I'm prepared to file a civil suit and make this very public, unless Margaret settles for a smaller portion and relinquishes the house. He was threatening to destroy her reputation, drag this through courts, make her life hell. I stood up. You want to know if this marriage is real? Walt, Margaret started. You want proof? Evidence? I looked directly at Bradley. 41 years ago, I married this woman in a small church in Asheville. We couldn't afford a big wedding. Her dress cost $75. The ring cost $300. I saved 6 months to buy it. We honeymooned in Myrtle Beach because it was all we could afford. Margaret's eyes were wide. We had a daughter, Caroline Elizabeth, born on a Tuesday in March during a snowstorm. Margaret was in labor 14 hours. I held her hand the entire time. When Caroline was born, I cried. Margaret laughed at me. Walt, she whispered. We built a life, a home, routines. She took her coffee with 2 sugars and cream. I left my keys by the door. She planted a garden I pretended to hate but secretly loved. We fought about money and whose turn to do dishes. We made up on the couch watching Jeopardy. I looked at Bradley. And then I broke us. When my father died, I shut down, pushed her away, chose grief over love. After 2 years of trying to save me, she gave up. Not because she didn't love me, because she couldn't watch me destroy myself anymore. The room was silent. We divorced 18 years ago, I said, and I spent every single one of those years regretting it, missing her, wondering what would have happened if I'd fought harder. I turned to Margaret. Tears streamed down her face. 5 days ago, she showed up at my door asking me to save her, and I said yes, not because of money, not because of a will, but because she was the love of my life, and I never stopped hoping she'd come back. I took her hand. This marriage isn't fraud, Bradley. It's a second chance. It's two people who loved each other once, figuring out if they can love each other again. And we can. I love this woman. I never stopped. And I will fight you in every court in this state before I let you take anything more from her. Margaret was sobbing. Bradley stared. His lawyer looked uncomfortable. That's a nice speech, Bradley said coldly. Doesn't change the timeline. Actually, Susan said quietly, it might. Remarriages between previously divorced spouses are legally protected. The key element in determining fraud is intent. Mr. Cunningham's testimony demonstrates clear romantic and emotional intent, which supersedes timing concerns. She looked at Bradley. You can file your suit, but you'll lose, and I'm prepared to recommend a countersuit for harassment. Bradley's jaw tightened. This isn't over. Yes, it is, Margaret said, voice steady despite tears. Your father loved me. He wanted me taken care of, and he wanted me to find love again. I did. With the man I should have never divorced in the first place. She stood and took my hand. File whatever you want. We're done here. Outside in the parking lot, Margaret turned to me. Did you mean it? Everything you said in there? Every word. I love you too, Walt. I never stopped either. I pulled her close and kissed her, not careful this time, not pretending. Real. 6 months later, we renewed our vows in our backyard under string lights at sunset. Caroline and our grandchildren were there. This time it wasn't about paperwork or deadlines. It was about choosing each other. Again. For real. Forever. Sometimes the greatest love stories aren't about finding someone new. They're about finding your way back to the one who was always meant to be yours. So let me ask you something. Have you ever let someone go that you wish you'd fought harder for? Drop your story in the comments. I'd love to hear it. And if this story moved you, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. There's a lot more where this came from. Thanks for watching.